Thank you. Mr. Diaz-Balart.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. These three C3 and C4 reviews, how long do they usually, I mean, in a normal process, without this, how long does that usually take?
Well, that's a good question, and my understanding is that once it's longer than 120 days, we would characterize it as longer than what the IRS expects the process to run, but I don't know the average at my fingertips. We can certainly get you that information.
Do you have any idea of what would be in a quick one? What would be a fast one?
I don't, but I can get you that information.
Well, just because Mr. George, in your report, you talk a lot about, and I understand why you've explained it, about this being basically a ineffective or gross mismanagement. Now, if it was consistent, I would understand that. But if it's targeted, and I think it's pretty clear that it's targeted, it seems to be a little bit more than just gross mismanagement. It's targeted mismanagement. And in some cases, it would seem that it's very effective management. Not a beacon of conservative ideals. The Washington Post talks about IRS stalled conservative groups, but gave speedy approval to Obama Foundation. That, I believe, I don't know if it was a C3 or C4, was processed in 1 month and then given to them in 1 month, according to this Post article. And then they were given retroactively as well, which according to the Post, is very rare. So on one side, it would seem that you have very effective management, in this case to the Obama Foundation, while at the same time you have ineffective management when it goes to conservative groups. I don't know if I would, this is just me personally, I don't know if I would call that ineffective management. I mean, that seems to be targeted, is it not?
Well, again, in this instance, the reason we deem it ineffective management is because when identified by the manager that there was a problem, she attempted or did actually affect change and let it just unbeknownst to her, we assume at this stage, people reverted back to the inappropriate behavior. And then there seems to have been, for quite a while, a lack of accountability in terms of someone going back to see whether, hey, are they doing what we told them to do? And the answer was no for quite a while. And then, of course, the groups that were targeted in this instance. So that's how I come about to use of the term
and I understand that. You've been very clear of that. But again, when you have it on the other side, and I don't know how many of these cases there are, but when the Obama Foundation gets taken care of in 1 month and then retroactively, this seems more than just by omission. This took somebody to take action to do. And the pulling out these conservative groups, it took somebody actually doing it. So it actually was an action that was required. And again, that's why it's so troubling. But this is another point that I have. The C3 and C4 reviews, is it fair to say it's a pretty standard part of what the IRS does, correct?
That is correct.
And they do this quite a bit, and so if on something that's pretty basic, pretty standard, at best, it's gross mismanagement. At best, it is, and at worst, it's frankly a lot deeper than that. Could you tell me how I should feel good about giving the IRS now a totally new, complicated, above and beyond, now dealing with our health care, the ACA, or what is commonly known as Obamacare. Could you just, how do I tell my constituents, hey, on something that's pretty basic, look what's going on, but don't worry about it. Because now we're going to give the IRS, that we know we have all these issues, we're going to give them now, in essence, control of a big part of our health care. And they will be able to determine who gets fined and who doesn't. Could you please tell me how I should be able to feel good about that?
I can say that you can feel good about it in this way, sir. We at TIGTA have conducted 2 audits thus far looking at the steps that the Internal Revenue Service is taking to prepare for the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. And thus far, our reviews have been positive that the IRS is doing what it needs to do in order to gear up for this. That said, the IRS has to create many, many new computer programs, and historically they've had trouble instituting new computer programs for implementing tax law changes. So that is a risk. And in all candor, unless the IRS receives additional resources in order to implement the ACA, it's a zero-sum game. They're going to have to make very difficult choices in terms of customer service, in terms of enforcement, in order to take on this huge responsibility that they've been presented with.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Time is up.
Well, and one of the things they could do when